Yeah, like I was saying, here we can see how the smaller tributary streams feed into the main stem. Tributaries being another, well, almost a example of a landform, water form. The smaller feeder streams feeding into the large main stream channel. Stream, as we'll look at later on, doesn't necessarily mean a very small river. Even giant rivers in hydrology, physical geography, earth science at large, even the biggest rivers in the world are still considered streams. And then we'll go to processes shaping landforms and landscapes continued here. Glaciers, the amazing U-shaped valley carved by glaciers at Yosemite. A nice clear day for that epic view, and dare I use the E adjective and its overused state these days. Seems like epic gets thrown around way too easily, but for such a vista as this one, we'll find it applicable. Glaciers, very important in landscape development. 20,000 years ago, glaciers covered much of North America, including the Sierra Nevada, but not the surrounding landscapes. Ice sheets scoured surfaces, glaciers carved valleys, and what a mountain range for witnessing the effect of glacier carved valleys. Besides just the Yosemite Valley here, so many of the upper alpine valleys as well. If you ever get a chance, get up to the Evolution Valley down south from there, hiking the John Muir Trail for 2 weeks south of Yosemite. So I guess that would put you into the backcountry of Kings Canyon National Park or Sequoia National Park. Those two, of course, married together. But yeah, just so many fascinating glacier carved valleys there, and yeah, other places in the world too. Let me know where some other ones stand out to you all. It'd be neat to get some examples from other people. As you've heard me talk about before, the Alps of North America, the North Cascades of northern Washington State, highly glaciated, still active glaciers there as well. And sorry for picking up some noise there in the background. But yeah, like I was saying, I would love to hear from you all where some other neat glacial standouts are for yourselves. Why that's popping up on there. And then wind, okay? Besides just glaciers, wind is a highly significant force in shaping landforms. Here we have the Namib Desert of Namibia in southwestern Africa. And for the textbook tells us the coast is just behind the photographer in this picture. So pretty stunning sand dunes here. Wind, mostly minor agent in landscape development, but important in some areas. And this is certainly the case, is by no means minor in some areas, such as deserts, where there's not a lot of vegetation to hold back the forces of wind, let alone water that combines with it. And get me back on there a little bit for you. Form dunes and deposit loess, this loose, superfine sand and sediment, smaller than sand grain even. You've heard me talk about the Loess Plateau in northern central China, feeding into the Yellow River. It's yellowish color there, probably giving name to the Huanghe, the Yellow River originally. The ancient cradle of Chinese civilization. Coastal waves and currents. Waves attack coastlines, wear down cliffs, may cause beaches to develop or beaches to be removed. So a neat, double-ended effect there. Here's Route 101 in Oregon, looking pretty similar to a couple spots in Central California as well, displaying natural bridges from wave action. And Jesus, it looked like the place down near Big Sur, the stunning natural bridge there. But Oregon's coastline is just phenomenal for when you get a chance to drive up the 101 there and hike around or surf or paint, whatever you would like to do, landscape painting. It doesn't always have to be this hiking and rock climbing, and there's lots of ways to enjoy the outdoors, nature. And other processes shaping landforms: sediment deposition in landforms we need to look at. Okay, deposition is the accumulation of sediment. Sediment deposition creates landforms such as dunes, beaches, and deltas, right? A very famous delta right in our backyards here in the bay, but it's neat how it got that name from the Greek letter looking like the triangle, and how sand and sediment flows out from a river in a triangular form. The delta of San Francisco Bay is actually a reverse delta. And yeah, so that's a little bit about deposition there. Accumulation of sediment, right? Depositing. And then gravity, really important to take into consideration when looking at weathering and erosion. It's the most important force driving erosion. Such a strong force that it is. Soil, hillside rocks, streams, glaciers moving downslope are all driven by gravity. It's how landforms are generated as well. Steeper slopes means that gravity-driven processes work faster. Right? That's pretty straightforward to think through. They're working with the force of gravity. Erosional processes wear down mountains, right? Hugely forceful process wearing down mountains, as the example of the Appalachian Mountains from the text shows us, as we've talked about earlier units as well. But here we have this classic Central Californian coast being eroded due to waves and gravity. And it just highlights the geoignorema. I mean, building, here you see a guardrail and these pylons supporting it, probably worn away even more so since they installed it. But, geographic ignorance, building roads right, close, even if it wasn't right along the edge, but anywhere near it is just great exposition of ignorance and in the ignoring the realities, the geography of the unstable slopes, of the force and the power of erosion. These are things humans, especially Californians, Americans, need to take a lot better attention to. Is the forces of physical geography around us, in infrastructure and houses, where we build and how we build, and then how to mediate those effects now with what we've built. And, so erosion and tectonics, moving on from there. But again, a lot of things to consider when looking at where we build in relation to volcanoes in this case, and fault zones. Tectonics causing faulting, folding, mountain uplift, subsidence of land, and volcanic eruptions, of course, related to many volcanoes, right? As we've learned, some of them are extinct or dormant, but even dormant ones we need to be careful of. Erosion by water, wind, ice, influenced by structures built up by tectonic activity, such as Mount Rainier. Only I should be using the indigenous name here, Tacoma or Taquoma, by the Puyallup people.